Our scripture today emerges out of conflict, and it is an important one at that. Jesus had healed a man, making it so he could see for the very first time in his life. It started out fine enough. Neighbors were confounded. They started speaking among themselves. After all, that's not the kind of thing that happens often. No wonder they were stirred to attention. But in their questioning, it didn't turn to wonder. Instead, they went to the religious authorities who needed the act of love that Jesus had given to fit within their program, within their rules, and at the heart of it, within their control. Jesus might be able to heal people, but aren't 6 days a week enough for that sort of thing? He did not honor the Sabbath, they said, by healing on the Sabbath. We might want to ask today, how are you so sure that healing is not the work of the Sabbath? Our passage emerges out of this big conflict. One about who gets to control what God does and who gets to name what is right and what is wrong. And whether by wisdom or practicality, the people who put together the Revised Common Lectionary, which is where our reading from John chapter 10 comes today, they sought to draw our attention away from that conflict. Yes, there are resonance of it. There are glimpses of it in the story from John 10. But it takes a back seat to what really matters. And the reason I start by naming the conflict between Jesus and the religious authorities is because I would like to invite you to lay aside all the weight of conflict that you are holding, so that we can hear the voice that truly matters. A voice that we can struggle to hear when we are enraged and when we are confused by the noise of conflict. But Jesus said, the sheep only hear the voice of the shepherd. They don't listen in to the ones who would try to confine God's ways in regulation or who would seek to hold God's ways under their control. I'd invite you to join me today in listening for the voice of the Good Shepherd. Have you ever thought, what's in a voice? Of course, it's the means of conveyed words. Truth or falsehood can be dispensed through language. But if you listen to a voice, it bears more than just information. Voice reveals being. Tone makes known a true intention. Warmth in a voice can tell us that we are loved in ways that words cannot. Harshness changes the meaning of otherwise kind words. A voice doesn't come out of nowhere, it comes out of one's belly, through one's vocal cords. It's breath and it's sound. Chosen morsels of language, logic, and love. It is connection. As one speaks, for another, to another. Have you ever truly listened to someone speak? When you do you just hear words, or do you experience more? Something of essence, the being of the speaker. Something that's here, but also beyond and more. And of course, meanings expressed through language too. Jesus, the shepherd, speaks. And he lays out the program, and he doesn't open up the scroll and find the reading to do it. No, he just speaks. And his sheep hear his voice through his words. But to speak is always more than just a message. It's the giving of oneself. When we hear the Good Shepherd, we not only hear words, we hear him. And in him, the way of life. I have a gift for you today, and I have been waiting to share this gift. I am delighted to offer it to you. It was one that when I received it, it took me by surprise. It's also not mine to give to you, because this gift comes from you, and it is of you. I'm being obtuse, let me be clear. As our round table met a handful of weeks back, and as we considered the figures of speech from John chapter 10, the story we've heard here today about the gate and the gatekeeper and the shepherd, I happened upon the right question to ask our round table participants. I asked them, how has Jesus given you life? Or the question was something like that, but quite frankly, the gift I have for you today is not the question I asked. It was the answers that flowed from places of truth and sincerity. It was a moment that took me by surprise because it was so powerful and it was so beautiful. One individual in the room right now said, with gentleness and warmth, that conveyed the truth of the statement that they shared. I'm not angry anymore. Another said, with resolve, in the midst of hard years, I have strength to serve through struggle. Jesus is still there, and I still need to say yes. I celebrated that this individual who has been through some hard years could still say yes. A third person mentioned, with intention and clarity, I have a sense of purpose, strength. Something inside me assures Jesus is leading me. They didn't have to tell me. I knew that they had heard the right voice. Will you listen for the voice? And I know that there are some in this room who, before you had to think it, already have responded by saying, I'll do it if you tell me how. But I can't. And it would be too cheap, and it would be inauthentic if I tried. I don't know if you can hear me today. I don't know if this makes sense. I don't know that it matters if it does or doesn't. I pose the question, that's my job. How do you listen? How do you position yourself when you know that someone is saying something that matters? How do you make yourself available to receive both the message and the being of the one who speaks? The shepherd speaks. And where he leads is through the gate. Through the gate in times of danger and threat. And somehow the metaphors fall apart. He is the gate too. But hear me out. The confined space behind a gate is not the point. Jesus is not like those authorities who are so small that they need to control the healing that's in his voice. The confined space behind a gate is about safety and protection, but it's not the point. And this is what we need to receive today. The sheep who hear his voice are led to pasture. Pasture beyond the gate is goodness. Pasture is the place. It is the sign of life. It's where we go when we listen to the voice that both speaks the words, but the one who speaks himself to us. The voice is leading and calling and inviting. The Good Shepherd leads. And the way is life, and life more abundantly than you or I could ever imagine. And life that is abundant does not end. It cannot end.